The cruise ship's horn blasted at exactly 4 p.m. Pacific time, the same moment my extended family would be arriving at my house expecting turkey and all the trimmings. I stood on the deck of the Pacific Explorer, watching the Los Angeles coastline shrink away, and raised my complimentary welcome cocktail in a toast to absolutely no one. "First cruise?" asked the woman next to me at the railing. She looked to be in her 60s with silver hair and a relaxed smile. "First Thanksgiving without cooking for 40 people, I replied. She laughed. "Good for you. I'm Margaret. And you look like someone with a story." I introduced myself as Emma and realized I did have a story, 12 years worth of stories actually. All of them involving my sister Rachel and her remarkable talent for making my house the official family gathering place while somehow never lifting a finger to help. It started in 2011 right after I'd bought my first house. I was 26, proud of my little 3-bedroom ranch in a decent neighborhood, excited to finally have space for entertaining. When Mom called in early November asking where we should have Thanksgiving, I volunteered immediately. "Emma's new place," Rachel had announced before I could even finish offering. "It's perfect, so much room, and Emma loves to cook." That first year I'd been thrilled. I spent weeks planning the menu, researching recipes, decorating my dining room. I wanted everything to be perfect for our family's first Thanksgiving in my new home. 23 people showed up. I'd planned for 12. "Oh, didn't Rachel tell you?" Mom asked when I stared at the crowd filling my living room. "She mentioned it to a few cousins, and you know how word spreads." "Don't worry, honey, you're so good at this stuff. You're so good at this stuff." That phrase would haunt me for the next 12 years. Rachel arrived fashionably late that first year, carrying a store-bought pumpkin pie still in its plastic container. She swept through the house like a hostess, greeting everyone warmly, complimenting my decorations as if she'd chosen them herself. "Emma did such an amazing job," she told our cousin Lisa, gesturing at the dining room table I'd spent hours setting. "We're so lucky she loves doing all this." During dinner, Uncle Tom raised his wine glass. A toast to Rachel for organizing this beautiful gathering. I opened my mouth to correct him, but Rachel was already standing, graciously accepting the praise. "It's all about family," she said, beaming. "Emma and I just love bringing everyone together." Emma and I. As if we were co-hosts. As if she'd done anything besides show up and take credit. After dinner, I spent 4 hours cleaning up alone while everyone watched football. Rachel had disappeared to help with the kids, which apparently meant taking Instagram photos with her nephews in front of my fireplace. The next morning, my phone buzzed with notifications. Rachel had posted a dozen photos from Thanksgiving, all tagged at my house but with captions that made it sound like she'd hosted. "So grateful for family time at our annual Thanksgiving celebration. #blessed, #familytime, #hosting." The comments poured in. "You're such a good hostess. Your house looks amazing. Lucky family to have you." Rachel hearted every comment. That should have been my warning. Instead, when she called me in October 2012 asking if I could do Thanksgiving again, because everyone had such a wonderful time, I said yes. And that's how I became the family's unofficial Thanksgiving hostess for the next 11 years. The pattern was always the same. Rachel would call in October, full of enthusiasm about how everyone wanted to come back to my place. She'd mention how much easier it was than trying to coordinate multiple locations, how my house was perfect for entertaining, how I was naturally good at this kind of thing. Then she'd start the guest list expansion. "Oh, and Cousin Mark is bringing his new girlfriend. And remember how disappointed the Johnson cousins were last year that they weren't invited? We should definitely include them. And Mom mentioned that the neighbors have been so helpful with Dad's recovery. Maybe we should ask them too." By the time November rolled around, my guest list would have mysteriously grown from 15 to 25 to 35 to sometimes over 40 people. All expecting a full traditional Thanksgiving dinner, all assuming I was handling everything, all completely unaware that I was funding and organizing the entire event solo. Rachel's contributions remained remarkably consistent. She'd bring one store-bought dessert and arrive just in time for dinner. But somehow, in the weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, she'd managed to position herself as the family event coordinator. She'd send group texts about timing and parking. She'd field questions about dietary restrictions and kid-friendly activities. She'd graciously accept compliments about her hosting skills, while forwarding all the actual work requests to me. "Emma, Rachel said you're handling the vegetarian options?" Emma, Rachel mentioned you'd have activities for the kids? Emma, Rachel said to ask you about the parking situation? By year 3 I'd started keeping receipts. Not because I expected reimbursement, I'd given up on that after year 1, but because I was curious about the actual cost of Rachel's reputation as the family's generous hostess. The numbers were staggering. Between groceries, decorations, disposable plates and cups, extra tables and chairs, wine and beverages, and special dietary accommodations, each Thanksgiving cost me between $800 and $1,200. Over 12 years I calculated that I'd spent over $12,000 creating the perfect family gatherings that Rachel took credit for. But the money wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the expectation that had calcified around the tradition. By year 5, no one even asked if I wanted to host Thanksgiving. It was simply assumed. Rachel would send out the group text in October. Thanksgiving at Emma's again. Can't wait to see everyone. And everyone would respond with enthusiasm about how wonderful it was that Rachel organized everything every year. The breaking point came last October. I'd been having a particularly challenging year, a promotion at work that came with significantly more responsibility, a relationship that had ended badly, and some health issues that had left me exhausted and stressed. When Rachel called with her usual October script about Thanksgiving, I tried something I'd never tried before. Honesty. Rachel, I'm really struggling this year. I don't think I can handle hosting 40 people. Could we maybe split the responsibilities or try a different location? There was a long pause. Then, Emma, you know my house isn't big enough for the whole family. And everyone expects to come to your place now. It's become our tradition. Plus you're so good at this stuff. It would be weird to change everything now. But I'm telling you I need help. Of course. I'll totally help. What do you need? I pulled out my notebook where I'd been tracking Thanksgiving prep tasks. Well, I could use help with grocery shopping, cooking, decorating, setting up tables and chairs, serving and cleaning up. Oh, you know I'm terrible at cooking, Rachel laughed. And I promised Mom I'd help her with her outfit that morning. But I can definitely bring something. How about that pumpkin pie from Costco everyone loves? A $12 pie. That was her contribution to the $1,000 event she'd take credit for. That night I called my friend Jessica, who I'd known since college. I hadn't talked to her much over the past few years, partly because I was always too busy with family obligations, and partly because I was embarrassed about how completely I'd let my family walk all over me. Emma, she answered on the first ring. I was just thinking about you. How are you? Are you still doing those massive Thanksgiving dinners? I found myself telling her everything. The money, the stress, the credit stealing, the complete lack of appreciation or help. The way Rachel had somehow positioned herself as the family hostess while I did all the actual hosting. Jessica listened without judgment, asking clarifying questions and making sympathetic noises. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Emma, can I ask you something? What would happen if you just didn't? Didn't what? Didn't host Thanksgiving. What would actually happen? I started to list all the reasons why that was impossible. The family expectations, the tradition, the lack of alternative locations, the disappointment everyone would feel. But what would actually happen? Jessica pressed. Would anyone die? Would the world end? Would your family figure out an alternative? The questions hung in the air. I realized I'd never actually considered what would happen if I simply removed myself from the equation. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I started researching Thanksgiving cruises. The websites were full of cheerful descriptions of holiday cruises to Mexico and the Caribbean. 7-day packages departing November 20th, returning November 27th. Formal dining rooms serving traditional Thanksgiving dinner prepared by someone else. Entertainment and activities organized by someone else. Cleanup handled by someone else. I booked the cruise on November 1st. For the first time in 12 years, I made Thanksgiving plans that prioritized what I wanted instead of what my family expected. The Pacific Explorer, departing Los Angeles for Mexican Riviera ports. 7 days of being served instead of serving, of being entertained instead of entertaining, of relaxing instead of orchestrating. But I didn't tell anyone about the cruise. Instead, I started playing along with the usual November script with a new sense of detachment. Rachel's group text went out on November 5th. Thanksgiving at Emma's again. So excited for our annual family gathering. Emma, you're the best. I responded, looking forward to it. The RSVPs started pouring in. 43 people this year, including second cousins I'd met maybe twice and a neighbor family Rachel had apparently invited without consulting me. Emma. My mother called on November 10th. Rachel mentioned you might need help with the shopping list this year? Actually, Mom, I've got everything under control, I said. And I did. I'd confirmed my cruise reservation, arranged for a cat sitter, and put an automatic out-of-office message on my work email. Are you sure, honey? That's a lot of people. I'm sure. It's all handled. The requests started coming in as they always did. Could I accommodate Cousin Jerry's gluten-free diet? Would I have activities for the kids? Could I make sure to have that green bean casserole Uncle Paul loved? Absolutely, I responded to each request. Everything will be taken care of. And it would be by the cruise ship's culinary team, somewhere in international waters off the coast of Mexico. The week before Thanksgiving, I went through my usual prep motions but in reverse. Instead of stocking my pantry, I cleaned it out. Instead of planning cooking schedules, I packed summer clothes and sunscreen. Instead of setting up extra tables in my garage, I arranged for my mail to be held and my plants to be watered. On November 20th, the group text reminder started. Rachel, 3 days until Emma's amazing Thanksgiving. Can't wait. Mom, should I bring anything special, Emma? Me, just yourselves. Everything's under control. I left for the cruise terminal at 1 p.m. on November 23rd. My ship departed at 4 p.m., exactly when the first wave of family members would be arriving at my house expecting to find me frantically checking turkey temperature and arranging appetizers. Instead, they'd find my front porch empty, my driveway vacant, and a house that was clearly, obviously unoccupied. I'd left one concession to my guilty conscience. A note taped to my front door. Family emergency, had to leave town unexpectedly. So sorry for the inconvenience. Emma. It wasn't technically a lie. My mental health was definitely an emergency and I had definitely left town. The cruise ship was everything I'd hoped for and nothing I'd experienced during 12 years of hosting Thanksgiving. My stateroom had an ocean view and room service. The dining room served a traditional Thanksgiving meal that I didn't have to shop for, prepare, cook, or clean up after. I ate turkey and stuffing while watching dolphins play in the ship's wake. For the first time in over a decade, I spent Thanksgiving Day doing exactly what I wanted. I slept in, had breakfast in bed, got a massage, read a book by the pool, and took a salsa dancing lesson. I turned my phone back on Friday morning when the ship docked in Cabo San Lucas. The message count was staggering. 57 missed calls, 89 text messages and 14 voicemails. I made myself a coffee from the in-room machine and settled in to read the progression of family panic. The early messages, time-stamped around 4 p.m. on Thursday, started with confusion. Mom, Emma, we're here but you're not answering the door? Rachel, where are you? Everyone's arriving. Uncle Tom, front door is locked and no one's home. Is there a change of plans? By 5 p.m., confusion had turned to concern. Rachel, found your note. What kind of emergency? Are you okay? Mom, Emma, please call. We need to know you're safe. By 6 p.m., concern had become chaos. Rachel, 40 people here with no food and no host. This is a disaster. Cousin Mark, kids are crying. What are we supposed to do? Uncle Paul, had to order pizza for everyone. This is ridiculous. By 8 p.m., the tone had shifted to anger. Rachel, Emma, this is completely irresponsible. You can't just abandon the family like this. Mom, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is unacceptable. By Friday morning, the messages had become accusatory. Rachel, talk to your neighbor. Saw you loading suitcases on Wednesday. This wasn't an emergency, you planned this. Mom, your selfishness ruined Thanksgiving for everyone. 43 people, Emma. How could you do this to your family? And finally, from my father, the voice of reason. Dad, Emma, your mother and sister are upset, but I think I understand. Call me when you're ready to talk. I hope you're somewhere warm and relaxing. I read every message, waiting for the guilt to overwhelm me. Waiting for the anxiety attack that should accompany disappointing 43 people simultaneously. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Pride. They'd figured it out. Without me there to orchestrate everything, my family had improvised. They'd ordered food, made alternative arrangements, handled the crisis. The children had been fed. The family had gathered. The world had not ended because I wasn't there to manage their Thanksgiving. Margaret, my new cruise friend, found me on deck that morning, staring at my phone with what must have been an interesting expression. "Everything okay back home?" she asked. "Perfect," I said and meant it. Everything is absolutely perfect. I spent the rest of the cruise doing things I'd forgotten I enjoyed. I tried new foods in Mazatlan without worrying about dietary restrictions. I went shopping in Puerto Vallarta without calculating how much I was spending on other people. I watched sunsets without planning the next day's menu. On the flight back to Los Angeles, I crafted my response to the family crisis I'd created. I called my father first. He answered on the second ring. "Emma, are you okay? Where were you?" "I'm fine, Dad. I was on a cruise to Mexico." There was a long pause. "A cruise? During Thanksgiving?" "During Thanksgiving. I needed a break." Another pause. "From us. From being taken for granted. From spending my time and money creating events that other people take credit for. From being the family's unpaid event coordinator." Dad was quiet for a moment. "Your sister is furious." "I imagine she is. She'll have to plan her own Thanksgiving next year." "Emma, you know she doesn't know how to do all that." "Actually, Dad, I know she's perfectly capable. She managed just fine on Thursday when she had to. She ordered food, organized people, handled the situation. She just chose not to do those things when I was available to do them instead." When I hung up with Dad, I felt lighter than I had in years. Rachel called an hour later, her voice tight with anger. "Emma, what the hell was that about? You humiliated me in front of the entire family." "I took a vacation, Rachel. I didn't humiliate anyone. You abandoned us. 40 people showed up expecting dinner and there was nothing. There was nothing because I wasn't there to provide it. Just like there's nothing when you're not there to provide it, which is every other day of the year. That's completely different." "How is it different?" She sputtered for a moment. "Because you're good at this stuff. You like doing it." "Actually, Rachel, I don't like doing it. I haven't liked doing it for years. I do it because you and everyone else expect me to do it, and I've been too much of a people pleaser to say no. But it's tradition. It's a tradition that benefits everyone except me. I spend over $1,000 in a week of my time creating an event that you take credit for. How is that fair?" The conversation ended with Rachel hanging up on me. Mom called next, her voice cold and disappointed. "Emma, I raised you better than this. Family comes first." "Family does come first, Mom. That's why I've spent 12 years and over $12,000 making sure this family has perfect Thanksgivings. But I'm part of this family too, and my needs matter just as much as everyone else's. This is selfish behavior. Is it selfish to want appreciation for my contributions? Is it selfish to want help with something I've been handling alone for over a decade? Is it selfish to take a vacation?" Mom was quiet. "I love this family," I continued. "But love shouldn't be a one-way street. For 12 years I've shown love by sacrificing my time, money, and energy. I'd like to see some of that love returned." The family dynamics shifted dramatically over the following weeks. Some relatives reached out to apologize. They genuinely had no idea how much work went into hosting Thanksgiving, or that I was handling everything alone. Others remained angry about the Thanksgiving disaster, and what they saw as my selfish abandonment of family duty. But the most interesting change was in Rachel. For the first time in 12 years, she had to confront the reality of what actually goes into hosting a family event. The grocery shopping, the menu planning, the dietary accommodations, the setup and cleanup, the coordination and timing. When Christmas planning season arrived, her approach was noticeably different. "Emma, about Christmas," she called in early December. "I was thinking we could maybe split the hosting duties this year? What did you have in mind?" "Well, maybe I could host Christmas Eve at my place and you could do Christmas Day? Or we could do a potluck thing where everyone brings something substantial, not just dessert." It was the first time in over a decade that Rachel had suggested sharing responsibility instead of simply assigning it to me. "Actually, Rachel, I'm planning to spend Christmas with friends this year. But I think a potluck rotation among all the adult family members is a great idea." She was quiet for a moment. "Emma, are you still mad about Thanksgiving?" "I'm not mad," I said honestly. "I'm just not available to be the family's default hostess anymore. If you want to organize Christmas, I'm happy to contribute like a regular family member. Bring a dish, help with cleanup, participate equally. But I'm not taking on the full responsibility. That Christmas was smaller, more casual, and infinitely more enjoyable. Everyone brought substantial dishes. Multiple people helped with setup and cleanup. No one person bore the full financial and logistical burden. And for the first time in years, I actually got to relax and enjoy the holiday instead of orchestrating it. The following Thanksgiving rolled around with no assumptions about location or hosting duties. In September, Dad sent a group text. We should probably figure out Thanksgiving plans. Anyone willing to host, or should we look into restaurants? 3 different cousins offered to host smaller gatherings. Rachel volunteered to coordinate a potluck at a rented community center space. I offered to help with organization and bring side dishes. We ended up having 3 separate Thanksgiving celebrations. One for Mom's side of the family, one for Dad's side, and one for the cousin group. All 3 were smaller, more manageable, and more equitable than the massive productions I'd been orchestrating alone. At the cousin Thanksgiving, my niece Emma, named after me, asked why we weren't at my house like usual. Because Aunt Emma deserved a break, Rachel said, glancing at me. She did a beautiful job hosting all those years, and it's time for the rest of us to step up. It was the first time I'd ever heard her acknowledge my contributions publicly. Later, as we cleaned up together, actually together with 5 people washing dishes and packing leftovers, Rachel pulled me aside. Emma, I owe you an apology. I never realized how much work you were doing or how much money you were spending. I just thought. I don't know, I thought you enjoyed it. I enjoyed parts of it, I said honestly. I love cooking and I love having family together. But I didn't enjoy being taken for granted or having my contributions ignored, or bearing all the responsibility alone. I should have helped more. I should have appreciated what you were doing. Yes, you should have. But I also should have spoken up sooner instead of letting resentment build for 12 years. She nodded. So we're okay? We're better than okay. We're family members who respect each other's contributions. Standing in that community center kitchen washing dishes with my sister and cousins, I realized something important. The cruise to Mexico hadn't been about escaping my family. It had been about finding myself within my family relationships. I'd spent 12 years being the person who made everyone else's holiday wishes come true while never advocating for my own needs. The cruise had been my way of proving to myself and to them that I was a person with my own desires, not just a resource to be exploited. Margaret, my cruise friend, had given me her contact information that first day on deck. We'd stayed in touch and she'd become a sounding board for the family dynamics I was navigating. The thing about setting boundaries, she told me during one of our phone calls, is that it's not about punishment or revenge. It's about teaching people how to treat you with respect. That's exactly what my Thanksgiving disappearance had done. It had forced my family to see me as a person with my own needs instead of just the designated family organizer. It had made them confront the inequity of our traditional arrangements. It had required them to develop their own hosting and coordination skills. Most importantly, it had shown me that I could survive their temporary disappointment in service of my long-term well-being. The following year, when November rolled around again, I found myself actually looking forward to Thanksgiving. Not because I was hosting, I wasn't, but because I knew I'd be attending celebrations where my contributions were valued, my presence was appreciated, and my needs were considered alongside everyone else's. And if I ever felt like taking another cruise during a holiday season, I knew I could do that too. Because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. My family would figure it out. They always do.